Bruce, thank you for that intro. How about the hand of applause for Bruce? Making us all laugh. That's awesome. I'm excited to be here. As Bruce said, we have a couple of people from Funbox here. We have an awesome booth with VR, A-frame. Martin, you'd be proud. Come check us out outside. And so I'm not going to talk about snails. I'm going to talk about mice. The title of my talk is Avoiding the Productivity Mousetraps. And I'll explain what this means in a second. So a bit about myself. My name is Wolkov. I've been to YGLF before. I'm Altran on Twitter. I'm fairly active. Please follow me. Actually, two things before I start. You see the little bit.ly link over there? YGLF, capital YGLF productivity. Everything I'm going to talk about is there. It's there so you don't have to write this down. You don't have to focus to remember this. Just try to go to that link, save it for later. I also tweeted it. Everything is there. Just listen, just absorb. There's going to be a bit of a brain dump of productivity on all of you. I'm head of innovation at labs at Funbox San Francisco. And with that, I'm actually the creator of this Facebook group, Devs with Mac. Some of you are here from there. There's like productivity with Mac. I write for this Medium publication called Productivity Freak with my friend Elada Sodon. And in my spare time, I sit with my coworkers and friends to teach them about productivity with Mac, without Mac. These are some of the friends that were gracious enough to give me some good reviews. Not all of them are as excited about my productivity tips. This is actually an awesome segue to discuss that Ophir is actually one of the best backend developers I ever had the chance to work with. He doesn't get all excited about this whole productivity part, but whatever I'm going to share with you today is not going to make you, on its own, a better developer. It's just going to help you a little bit with speed, with maintaining focus. Cool. I started with productivity excitement when I learned Angular, actually. And I learned Angular with videos of this guy. His name is John Lindquist. You may know him as Egghead.io. Everybody probably seen a video of his. John is amazing. He's amazing to the point where his mastery of tools got him a job at JetBrains as developer productivity kind of geek. And he actually needs to slow down his speed because it doesn't work well in videos. People don't really understand what's going on. And I'm going to talk about the development flow. Okay? I think it's been said before here on this stage that there's kind of a myth of us as developers. The myth is we just type most of the time. We write code, which is actually not that true. We all know this. I think it goes a little bit like this. We think a little bit about something, and then we write some code with two hands on the keyboard, and then we go to the browser either to check this out or Stack Overflow-driven development. And then we go back to some coding again, and then we go back to thinking again, and kind of those cycles continue going all over and over and over. And so the thinking part, other talks in this conference cover the thinking part. All right, we've seen how to develop, we've seen some cool tips. I'm going to focus on these two. I'm going to focus on coding and browsing. I'm going to focus on productivity in coding and browsing specifically. And so I want to talk about this thing. Okay, this is the way we type. Hopefully all of us type with two hands on the keyboard. If you touch type, even better, productivity is to the roof. But I want to talk about the mouse a little bit, right? The title of my talk is Mouse Traps. Let's talk about the mouse a little bit. This is very fast, but we don't browse like this. We only code like this. Most of us code like this, browse hopefully like this, and some of us are browsing like this, with one hand on either a trackpad or a mouse, and another hand scratching our heads or holding a cup of coffee. And then we need to put the cup of coffee on the table and then go back to coding again. And I want to talk about the fact that on your left, I assume, yeah, that on the left is much, much more productive, much faster. So I'm going to cover the speed part in a sec. I just want to also talk about why productivity matters. There's two main reasons why productivity matters. One is mastery of your tools, okay? I'm going to try to cover all of the major code editors in this talk, and also Mac and Windows, so I'm not going to, shun people out with their tools. Mastery of your tools is important because, the more you know of your tool, the better you get at it. And also a state of flow. So the more you kind of switch mental states in your mind, the less kind of you maintain the state of flow. And so I'm going to talk about how to keep the state of flow. But let's talk about the speed, because I think that this and this is much inferior to that. And there is a way to measure this. And this is a little dry, but let's try to make this work. The way to measure this is called KLM GOMS. KLM GOMS stands for keystroke level modeling. This is a tool that was created by UX researchers in the 80s, and then they did a bunch of research on this. Keyres did this, another one in 2001. You're welcome to read on this. The whole point of KLM GOMS is to how to measure effectiveness of user interfaces without actually trying them out on a user. So let's say we have a dropdown and we want to measure its effectiveness. We want to know how fast the user will complete a very simple dropdown. And the way they did this, they summarized the basic action the user takes when they interact with an element. So one of the steps I'm not going to talk about, it's called the mental step, because it doesn't matter if you use the keyboard or the mouse. The mental step takes about, on average, 1.3 seconds. The mental step, just thinking about, okay, I need to click this, I need to do this. That's the mental step. Another step, very important for my talk, is called homing. Homing is actually, you have two hands on the keyboard, you move your hand to the mouse, that's homing. You move it back, that's homing. You move it to the trackpad, that's homing. This is homing, okay? Another one is pointing a mouse. We all do this all the time. Pointing a mouse takes about 1.1 seconds on average. Mouse button click is something we all do. It's a significant, its shortcut is like 2 Bs because a button up and a button down, 2 Bs, each one of them takes 0.1 second. On average, they take 0.2 seconds. And the very, very basic one, keystroke, every click on the keyboard, that takes about 0.2 seconds. That averages between, different people type faster and slower. We're developers here, so I took the one that's a little bit faster. That's KLM GOMS. And an interesting thing happens when you reorder them by speed of execution, and you see that keystroke is fast, mouse button click is fast, but homing and pointing a mouse takes almost 2 seconds. If you consider homing, and then you consider pointing the mouse to something, and then homing back, that takes almost 2 seconds. So my kind of point is, if you can do something with a shortcut, it's much faster. Let's take a simple example of this, something we do every day. I know I do this at least 10 times a day. Simple Stack Overflowing. So we're starting with 2 hands on the keyboard in our code editor. We're typing something, and then we switch to the browser with the shortcut. That's KK. We open a new tab, hopefully with a shortcut. That's also KK. We type the query. Query length doesn't matter for this exercise. So let's say we only consider the enter with a K. We home to the mouse. We point at the first result. Hopefully, the first result is what we want. I know people open like a bunch of new tabs. It doesn't matter. We click. We scroll down, which is considered the same as pointing, and we switch back to the editor. Okay? This is how KLM GOMS work. You calculate all of this together in this like mathematical formula, and you get on average. Don't forget, again, I took out the mental step. This actually takes longer, but for the purpose of this talk, this on average takes 4.2 seconds. We used a couple of shortcuts. And so 4.2 seconds it takes by using a shortcut and 1 hand on the mouse, 1 hand on the keyboard. What about just using the mouse and just typing in the query? Well, I've calculated all of the homing and the pointing and all of that. It takes 11.4 seconds. All right. What about just 2 hands on the keyboard, if possible? Any guesses? No? All right. It takes about 2.6 seconds. If you take away the homing and the pointing and all of that, it takes 2.6 seconds. But again, as I said before, I don't think the speed is the only thing here because, again, most of what we do is not just typing and executing. Most of it, like, we think a lot. I do think that the faster you do some stuff that you want to do, the faster you can go back to coding and maintain the sense of speed, right? Maybe by mistake you go to the browser and then like you lose your flow. So in order to maintain the speed, I'm going to share a couple of tips with you. And you're going to see these symbols on the bottom right. I have a 2x, a 5x, and a 10x productivity kind of tips for you. 2x is hopefully something you all already do. Okay? So I'm here actually to make you feel better about yourselves. If you use everything in this talk, I love you. You're awesome. Keep doing this. Cool. If you only use the 2x's, that's already awesome. 5x will probably going to be a little bit more harder to implement for you, and maybe some configuration will be needed. And 10x is the realm of productivity geekery. All right, maybe you'll need to install a plugin and configure it, but it will give you a 10x result. All right, let's start. I'm going to start with moving the cursor, something we use the mouse for. And in this case, I'm not talking about the mouse cursor, a little one that moves around the screen. I'm going to talk about the text cursor, the one that blinks at the end of whatever you write. That's also called the cursor. And so let's talk about moving it. Is this running? Yes. I'm not going to make you sit through all of this, but this is the default key character repeat rate in macOS. It's really slow, okay? And so my first 2X for you is just make it faster. As developers, we use OSs, we use Mac, we use Windows. The key repeat rate there wasn't made for you guys. It was made for my grandma, right? It's on average, and so by making this faster, we already win with at least 2X speed, right? Very simple. Hope everyone does this. Very simple. Very simple to do as well. You just go to the keyboard settings on macOS, or a little bit harder to find on Windows, but also fairly simple. 5X here would be moving the cursor word by word. I'm not going to do the hand raising. If you already do this, awesome. Come talk to me afterwards. Moving word by word is simple as holding Option on the Mac, or I think Control on Windows. You just hold this while you hold the left or the right keys, and then your cursor jumps to the beginning of the word that kind of the direction that you're going. Okay? As you see here, I measured the speed of this execution of like the full GIF runtime. This is actually 5X faster than the previous one, which is pretty cool. You can speed up your cursor movement, and this is 5X. Just hold Option. Very simple, very simple. Another thing I see a lot of people do is just kind of hold the back. Let's say you have a sentence, and then you had a typo in one word, and then you typed out the rest of the sentence. A lot of times I see people just hold the backspace with a slow character repeat and just wait, I just want to die while this happens. And then they fix the typo and then type everything back again. So no, guys, hold Option, left, 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 go to the word you want to use, switch it, and then you're done. 5X. What about Option left and right? What about 10X? 10X is actually very exciting. I researched this for the purpose of this talk. I used a plugin for this. This plugin is called Jumpy. Let me just show you how this looks. This was very fast. Okay, something we use the mouse for every day. This is a plugin called Jumpy. You hit a shortcut. This shortcut will find every beginning of a word in your code editor and just put it like a short label with 2 characters there. And just typing that label, you will put the cursor right there. Okay, so from KLM GOMS, that's 4Ks, much, much, much faster. That's 0.8 of a second to jump all around your code editor. This is called Jumpy. This is a plugin for Atom and VS Code. And in JetBrains and Sublime, we have something else that's called Ace Jump, fairly similar. You just hit a shortcut. You just need to tell it where to go. It doesn't show you the little labels. This is one of the things that if you use, you can't stop using this afterwards. You actually don't need to go to the mouse all the time. You just like boop, 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 move around. Very fast, very awesome. Another thing we do use the mouse for all the time is selecting. Okay, just selecting a word. I don't have a 2X here. 2X from the previous one already applies here. If your character speed repeat is already cranked up, you will start selecting things much faster by just holding Shift. The 5X here is, again, selecting by word. I've seen people who move around by word but don't select by word. Just hold Shift. Okay, this is how it looks. You just hold Shift, and really fast you can start selecting things. Very easy to select two words in a sentence. Very easy to just replace just 2 words in a sentence. Definitely 5X, just hold Shift. What about, I want to talk about selection a little bit. Okay, so selection wasn't built for us on the OS level. It wasn't built for developers. It was built for word editors and like just, writing in paragraphs. What if somebody there who created the selection concept was thinking about developers? And so I think it would look a little bit like this. And you can see that this is a selection that actually knows about HTML. Okay, so you start selecting. This is a JSON example. My GIFs are running kind of quick. And you start selecting, and you select the first brackets, and then extend, and extend, and extend, and extend. And then you can contract and contract and contract the selection. This is very fast because you can grab the contents of your, let's say, HTML tag or your JavaScript function, or any language, really. And this is a concept of smart selection that exists natively on JetBrains. All right? You just do Option up, Option down, and every major code editor out there has this as a plugin, because again, one of the things if you use, you just can't stop using. It's amazing. It's called Expand Region in some places, Expand Selection in some places. Again, all of the links I'm talking about are in my link over there, so you don't have to write those down. Really 10x. What about navigating the file? Hopefully this 2x everybody uses here, right? You've all seen this. I call them omni boxes, omni searches. They have a bunch of names. A fuzzy file search, you type a name of the file. You don't have to type the whole name. You can start with the beginning letter of the name and then the extension, JS. Hopefully we all use this, Command P, very easy. The 5x here is actually very well known, but I, for some reason, haven't seen a lot of people use this, and I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you see a JavaScript error, and you see the file and the line that the error occurred at, or you see a CSS in DevTools, and then you see a selector, and then you say, right, something.css, line 15. So what I see people often do is just go, open that file, hopefully with this, they open the file, and then they either scroll or try to find the function. Actually, if you just pass colon and then the line number, you will land directly on that line. Very simple, works almost everywhere. Actually, no, works everywhere natively. And just passing the line number here will land you on line 100. Very, very awesome for like a small productivity boost for something we do every day. The 10x here is very interesting. Actually, in this example, I'm just going to show this. Sublime is the only thing that does this. Sublime, if you give it a name of a file and then pass the @ symbol, you can start typing a name of a function, basically a symbol, a name of a function. In this case, this is a README a markdown file, so you have all the headers there. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, you can jump directly to a function with a fuzzy search of that name of that function. So you don't have to find anything. You don't have to go in and just like use the find command. Much faster. Other editors don't have this as awesome as Sublime, but other editors have this concept of go to symbol and go to symbol either in this file or in the whole project. So you don't have to kind of use the find if you don't want to find like a part of the text. That's a very strong 10x. All right, so just to cover this a little bit, you have the go-to line, we have the fuzzy file search. This is a rare case of almost all code editors, and you see Chromium Dev here, I'm going to mention this in a second, agreeing on one shortcut. You can use this one almost everywhere you code, right? You can use this in Sublime, you can use this in Atom, you can use this in VS Code, you can use this in Chrome Dev, right? So if you want to open the file in Chrome Dev to debug it, you can use Command P for a fuzzy file search. This has been there forever. Another thing you can do is use the command palette, which is Command Shift P, and then you can access all of the commands. I'm going to talk about this in a sec, except JetBrains. For some reason, I needed to remap my JetBrains, my WebStorm to use Command P, but basically these are the horrible, unnecessary different shortcuts in JetBrains, Command Shift O and Command Shift A. We're going to skip. And so I mentioned DevTools before. DevTools actually, I don't know how many of you know this, it's an insane app. It has so much stuff in there. And so in DevTools, one of the 2x, something we use every day, one of the 2x things I can say is that starting in inspect node, direct inspect node, when one of your hands is on the keyboard, one of your hands is on the mouse, is a very cool productivity tool enhancement. So you just kind of, you just do Command Option C, both Firefox and Chrome, both on Windows and on Mac, and you go directly to this inspect node. Hitting it again will toggle this off, right? So you don't have to go to a little icon that says inspect and click it all the time. You just hit the shortcut and you go directly to the inspect node. Another 2x here is, again, hopefully something we all use every day, is the responsive mode, right? We all use the responsive mode to measure the responsiveness of our things. And then in Firefox, it's even worse. You can see it's like a little icon over here. Can you see me? A little icon over there. And so you use the shortcut, Command Option M, to toggle the responsive mode in Firefox and in Chrome. A cool thing about this that I discovered while making this talk is that in Firefox, you don't actually have to have the DevTools open. You can just toggle responsiveness with just the browser. You can just browse and toggle the responsiveness a little bit. That's pretty cool. And I mentioned the command palette before. This is fairly new to Chrome DevTools. It works everywhere else. And finding the command you need in DevTools, I'm just going to let this run. You hit a shortcut, and you get a list of all of the actions and the panes and the configs settings and everything that Chrome DevTools has to offer you. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one that clears cache, but I'm going to cover this in a sec. So you can switch panes. You can go offline, you can go online with just a shortcut. Very easy. A lot of guys worked on this. It will enhance your productivity once you use this. Again, similar to Atom, similar to Sublime, similar to VS Code. A little bit different from JetBrains, but I love JetBrains dearly. Right? Command palette in Chrome DevTools. And so these are the shortcuts for this. They differ a little bit between the two OSs. Now let's talk about browsing. All right, so most of the tools we just covered, code editors, they know that developers use keyboards for mostly anything. Browsing is a little different. Browsing, the web wasn't made for shortcuts too much, right? We can tab around and the little thing will focus different things. What if we could use productivity for browsing? So I actually did a small survey while I was watching speakers do their thing. I did a small survey at Funbox. And so I have several shortcuts for you for browsing enhancements. I call them all 5Xs. They're most important ones. I'm just going to run through them. The most important one for me is focus the address bar. Very simple, something we do every day, maybe hundreds of times. Control L on the Windows, Command L on the Mac. You just do this, and then the whole URL that you're in just gets selected, and you can delete all of it. You can copy all of it and paste it into Slack or something. Command L. If you use this, I applaud you. This is really fast. Opening a new tab. Hopefully, everybody uses the new tab, and nobody goes to the little Chrome new tab. I don't even know what this is. The new tab button. It's right there somewhere. Just use Command T. Closing the current tab is also cool. You can use Control W also on Windows. So if you switch between Windows and Mac, you don't have to do Alt F4, which is I forgot how to do this. Reopen tab, something that I haven't seen a lot of people do. One cool thing about the reopen tab, it's not actually a shortcut to reopen just a tab. It's a shortcut to reopen a tab or a tab group. So if you close your whole window by mistake with a bunch of tabs, and you're like, oh no, shit, what's happening? You can open Chrome again. If it doesn't open all of your tabs for you, Command-Shift-T or Control-Shift-T on the Windows, and then all of the tabs that were closed together will be opened together. Very, very cool. And one thing that I use all the time is reload without cache, so you don't have to open DevTools and clear cache. You don't have to hold the little reload button, just Command-Shift-R or Control-Shift-R on the Windows, reloads without cache. I usually just do it 3 times to make sure it's dead and make sure, where's Yoav, to clear everything from my cache, everything. Reload without cache, really cool. 5X shortcuts for the browser. What if we don't need to use the mouse, though, right? I showed you a KLM GOMS example before where doing stuff with only the keyboard in the browser is much, much, much faster, but the browser wasn't built for that. You need to click on the, you need to take your mouse and then actually click the elements on the website. And so this is how it would look if we didn't have to use the mouse to browse, right? So you've all seen this horrible example. I tried to make it really hard that you can't even see the fav icon on the tabs. You can barely make up, the one letter of the tab name is there. You don't know what you have. Usually, in this case, you open some more, make this problem even worse for yourself. And so hitting a T, I think, can open a fuzzy tab search for you. This is really, really cool. So you can just whoop, and go directly to the tab you want. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second. So again, you hit T, you get this Omni search for your tabs. Another Omni search you might get is bookmarks. We've all used bookmarks before to just go to the things we saved. Hopefully, some of you already put my link in your bookmarks as well. And then you hit B, and then you have a fuzzy search of your bookmarks as well. And this is the coolest. I'm just going to let this run for a second, and then I'm going to talk about how to do this. Let's say I want to do CSS grid. I hit a shortcut, F, and you've seen Jumpy before. This is in the browser. This is the thing that I can't stop using anymore. 5 people I showed this to are also excited as much as me about this. You hit a shortcut, and every link, every input, everything you can click, and you need the mouse to click usually, gets its own little label. And then typing that label, you will focus this, right? And if you hit Shift while typing that label, let's say on the link, it will open this in a new browser tab. So you can see in this example, I'm going to Google, I'm searching CSS grid, I'm hitting this thing, and I'm opening 3 results in new tabs just by holding Shift and hitting this key. All of this is possible with the Vimium for Chrome and Vimium for Firefox extensions. Now, I'm not advocating for Vim. I actually don't like it that much. I like visual editors. I always get stuck there with like the W's and Q's and like, I like visual editors, but this is really strong. I strongly recommend you use this. Another cool thing, if you have the newer Macs and like the, you know, the up and down buttons are like, there's no, you can't just know that you're using up and down. This uses the Vim bindings for scroll, so J and K, and you can smoothly scroll every website with J and K, and this is pretty cool. Vimium for Chrome, Vimium for Firefox, every link is in that link. So as you might have noticed, I'm running out of time. I love Omni tools. I love Omni searches. There is a reason why vendors implement those. They're enhancing your productivity by at least 10x, right? Use them. JetBrains have them, VS Code, Atom, Sublime. Chrome has them with the plugin with the Vimium. Chrome DevTools have them natively. Firefox, Slack. Slack has it. Slack has a Omni search that if you hit Command K or Control K on the Windows, you'll just get like a fuzzy matching of all of the names and channels that you have, so you don't have to use the mouse in Slack at all. Slack is a tool that you type in, and so you can go there. It has a bunch of other shortcuts as well. And so you might ask me, well, Alex, this is cool and all, but what if my app, developer, vendor, whatever, didn't implement a fuzzy search? What's then? Let's solve this a little bit. For instance, like Sketch, right? Sketch doesn't have one. Sketch is a designer tool. How can you even use Sketch without a mouse? Well, apparently you can. If you use macOS, you're in luck. I've tried, Windows guys, I've tried really hard to find something similar. I couldn't. This looks a little bit like this. You select with the mouse, right? You use the mouse once, and then you hit a shortcut, and you go to the little help menu. You see the little help menu? That's a fuzzy menu matching mechanism that you can just type the command you want, and then Mac, and this works in every app on the Mac, Mac will find the action you want in there, right? So you don't have to remember the shortcut specifically. You can just like type, let's say in this case, I'm going to type align center, I think, or align top. Yeah, align top. It will show me where this is in the menu and actually perform this without touching the mouse. You can distribute things. You can do all of the actions that are in the menu with the cool shortcut, Command-Shift/. Strongly recommend you use this. All right, I have 3 minutes to cover the best Omni tool of them all. If you don't use the Alfred app, or if you are using the Alfred app but you don't pay for the extended version of the Alfred app, I strongly encourage you doing this. Every developer at Foundbox, by the way, if your work can't buy you an Alfred app license, come to Foundbox. Every developer at Foundbox gets one. Alfred app is the best Omni tool of them all, and it has so many features. It started out as a simple launcher, okay? So you just type the thing you want to do and the thing you want to launch, and then you see all of the apps, fuzzy app matching, and then it extended itself with so many great features. One of them is search. And so most of us, what we do when we search is type the search in the browser, get Google, click the Google result, and then go to the site. That site usually also has a search, right? So Stack Overflow search is not worse than Google's, maybe a little bit. But in this example, you can actually put custom searches in Alfred's box. You can define your own searches. So you can define your own, let's say, company wiki, and just go and directly search there. Not searchable through Google, maybe, because it's behind the proxy. Or you can search GitHub, or you can basically build your own custom search. We'll save you opening the browser, go to the result, etc., blah, 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 blah. Clipboard history. I promise I wouldn't do this. By show of hands, who uses clipboard history one way or another? All right, about half of you. The other half, I just blew your mind. Your life will change if you start using clipboard history. As developers, every snippet of code that you see on Stack Overflow, every snippet of code that you just delete from your code editor, it's going to be saved in clipboard history. You can see this in here. If you don't have to use Alfred for clipboard history. There's a bunch of tools. Just as developers, clipboard history just extends your kind of memory stack. I stopped deleting any line of code anymore. I just cut everything. I cut and put it in this buffer, and it's always fuzzy searchable in clipboard history. It's very strong. Alfred also supports images, so if you take screenshots of areas of screen, you can see them in there as well. So you don't only have the one, and you can take a bunch of screenshots of different areas, store them in clipboard history. It's mind-blowing. I'm going to blow through this because I don't have a lot of time. Text expansion. Alfred has so much more. File browsing is the same as you have inside the code editor, just for your whole operating system. All of the files are there. Context menu, you can define a context menu shortcut, and then you see all of these great things that you usually do with a right click on a thing. Open with, send over email, open terminal directly at the file location, copy path to clipboard is something I use every day, open terminal is something I use every day. Alfred for Mac OS. Windows has an open source, and I think Linux has one as well. It's called, I don't remember what it's called. Windows has Wox. Wox is an open source tool that you can contribute with Python. And so I just want to show you how everything of this kind of ties together. And I did practice this, but I did not edit this for speed or anything else. And this is how it looks. We use the command palette in, this is Atom, to set the syntax for HTML. This is Sublime, sorry. And then we use the text expansion of Alfred to give us like a HTML outline. You could use Emmet, but I wanted to show off the snippet tool in Alfred. And then let's say we need a CSS grid. I don't know how to make a CSS grid. 2017 is the year of CSS grid, yay. We open Alfred and we search for MDN CSS grid. In this example, I could have just used MDN search. We use the Vimium link select to select the first result. Vimium has also search in it. You can search with the browser, it doesn't matter. Vimium has all cool features I don't have time to cover. We can basically go into inspect mode and select stuff on the page without using your mouse as well. We copy all of this. We go back with the shortcut to our editor. We use the Alfred clipboard history to take the thing out of there. You see my character repeat is very fast, so I can delete all of this really, really fast. And then I do the expand selection option up. I use Emmet a little bit anymore, and then I paste it, and again, I use the expand selection, and I use the command palette to re-indent those lines. It was very fast, I didn't touch the mouse once. Right, all of the tips and tricks and productivity things are in this link. I strongly encourage you to write this down and go there. Feel free to ask me questions after this talk. Thank you very much.